Mr. Bones. Treetops. All morning long Jack had been climbing trees. The best tree for climbing was the apple tree down by the big white gate. Jack was at the top of the apple tree right now, looking all around him. He was looking up the road and down the road. Then he looked far away over the green fields. All at once the door of the farmhouse opened. Father and another man walked down to the big white gate. Funny looking apples you have on this tree. What if that big one with long legs fell on my head? Called the man, looking up at Jack. Jack looked down in surprise. There were Father and Mr. Woods. Yes, laughed Father, that is just what his mother is afraid he will do all day long. But he will never be a country boy if he cannot climb trees. So what can we do about it? Upon my word, Jack, called Mr. Woods, I know something that is more fun than climbing trees. Why not come down to my farm and find out what it is? You know what Jack did then? He was down out of that tree in a minute. In another minute, he was walking down the road with Mr. Woods. What is more fun than climbing trees? Come on, tell me, please, said Jack again and again. But Mr. Woods did not tell him. You will see when the time comes, was all he said. So Jack talked about other things. Are there good trees for climbing down at your farm? He asked. Next, maybe we could find one tree, said Mr. Woods, but the others are pretty big, Jack, too big for a boy like you. Not for a boy like me, said Jack. Really, Mr. Woods, I am never afraid, never. Is that so? Laughed Mr. Woods. That is a surprise. Something I have down at my farm will be a big surprise, too. So maybe it is a good thing you are not afraid. Then Mr. Woods smiled a big smile. What can it be? Thought Jack. What in the world can it be? What can it be? You know how you feel when someone wants to surprise you. You want to find out the surprise without being told. That was the feeling Jack had, too. Before long he wanted to run down that road. Walk fast, Mr. Woods, he called over and over again. Maybe you could run a little if you wanted to. But Mr. Woods did not have that feeling. There was no surprise at his farm for Mr. Woods. So he just walked down the road and took his time about it. We will never get there, never, thought Jack. But they did. The surprise was not in the house. It was not in the barn. Mr. Woods walked right by them. He walked out until he came to a big green field. There by the fence he stopped. What in the world was this? Was this the surprise? All Jack could see was cows, cows, and more cows. Maybe Mr. Wood thought that Jack wanted to milk a cow. That was not fun. That was work. Jack could milk cows at home. If this was the surprise, Jack was cross about it. Then all at once Jack saw something. It had 4 legs, but it was not so big as a cow. No, it was little and fat. It had big, long ears. It looked, yes, it looked, yes, it was a donkey. What was the surprise?
A donkey.
A donkey. Where did you get that? Where did you get him? Cried Jack. Just at that minute, the donkey looked up. Up went one big ear, and down went the other. Then back went the donkey's head, and up went his tail. Hee-haw, hee-haw, said the donkey. No ride today. How do you like Mr. Bones, Jack? Laughed Mr. Woods. But Jack did not have time to talk about that. I want a ride, he called. Before Mr. Woods could catch...
You said he called.
Okay. I want a ride, he cried. Is that better? Thank you. Before Mr. Woods could catch him, Jack had jumped the fence and was off after the donkey. Come back here, come back, I say. You will never ride, Mr. Bones, if you do that, called Mr. Woods. Do you want to read there?
But Jack did not come back. He did not hear what Mr. Woods said. Although he thought of the donkey,
all he thought
of was the donkey, and away he went. He ran until he was right by the side of Mr. Bones. Hello.
Slow down a little bit.
Hello, donkey. How are you? Give me a ride, said Jack. He talked as if the donkey were some old friend.
Okay. He was wanting a ride, wasn't he? That was good. But Mr. Bones did not make friends as fast as that. Oh my, no. He took his time and looked Jack over. A boy, thought Mr. Bones, and if I do not look out, he will be on my back in a minute. No fun for me with a boy around. All he wants out of me is rides, rides, and more rides. But not this donkey, not a ride will he get out of me. By this time, there was a bad look in that donkey's eye. If you had been there, you would have walked away. But not Jack. He was not afraid. All this time he was looking at the donkey's back. He was not looking at the donkey's eye. How could he get on that back all by himself? How could he? All at once Jack thought of something. He walked down the field, and then he turned around. Mr. Bones was right in front of him. Now, thought Jack, I will take a good run. When I come up to that donkey, I will put my hands on his back and jump. One jump, and I will be there. Do you want to read?
Jack took a good run, but when he put his hands out, there was no donkey there. Mr. Bones took it into his head to sit down at that very minute. Down on top of him came Jack with a big bump. Then Mr. Bones rolled off of him to one side.
Rolled him
Off to one side. Well, of all things, said Jack, you could tell when he said it that the bump hurt.
Okay, the bump hurt. Oh my. Jack just sat there in the field and looked at Mr. Bones. And Mr. Bones just sat there and looked at Jack. The bad look was right then in the donkey's eye.
Right there.
Right there. Thank you. The bad look was right there in the donkey's eye. Not just in one eye, but in two. You could tell by that look that Mr. Bones wanted to say, "Ride me, will you? I will see about that." Friends to make. Just at that minute, up came Mr. Woods. "Are you all right?" he called. "I think so," said Jack, feeling himself all over. "I hurt a little, but not much." "What are you thinking about?" Mr. Woods went on. "Do you think you can jump on a donkey's back the minute you see him?" Mr. Woods wanted to be cross. And what does cross mean?
Mean.
Mean or angry, doesn't it? Mr. Woods wanted to be mean or angry, but when he looked down, he saw Jack with his eye on the donkey. He saw the donkey with his eye on Jack. Mr. Woods laughed until he cried. "If you want to ride Mr. Bones, make friends with him," he said. "Just what you can do right now. See what you can do right now." Then Mr. Woods took a big red apple out of his pocket. "Give this to Mr. Bones," he said. "One thing he likes is apples. He likes apples and everyone who gives them to him." By now Jack had a funny feeling. He did not want to walk up to Mr. Bones and give him apples. He wanted to get as far away as he could get, and fast too. But he must not show that he was afraid. Oh my no. What did the farmer tell Jack to give to the donkey?
An apple.
An apple. What was Jack going to do now? It took Mr. Bones to help him. As soon as the donkey saw the apple, he got up and walked over to Jack. Jack gave him 2 big apples. By this time the bad look in the donkey's eye was going away. A boy who wanted to jump on his back was one thing. A boy in front of him with apples in his hand was another. When Mr. Bones had one more apple, Mr. Woods said, "That is enough for today, Jack. Come tomorrow with more apples. Someday you two will be friends. But do not think that you can ride this donkey until I say so. Can you hear me this time?" Jack did hear what Mr. Woods said. "I will do what you tell me to do," he said. "I really will." The next morning Jack walked out to the field all by himself. All he could think about was that bump. Maybe he did not want to ride Mr. Bones after all. Maybe he could give him some apples and go home again. Maybe that was the thing to do all summer long. He jumped the fence and started to walk up to Mr. Bones. No jolly hee-haw came from the donkey. The minute he saw Jack, down he sat. That bad look is back in his eyes, thought Jack. And Jack was right, it was. After Mr. Bones had had some apples, he was not so cross. When he was not so cross, Jack was not so much afraid. By and by the boy and the donkey were like two old friends. Jack smiled away at Mr. Bones, and if donkeys can smile, Mr. Bones smiled right back at him. Rides and more rides. Many days went by. Jack and Mr. Bones were now the best of friends. When the donkey saw Jack coming, he gave a jolly hee-haw. Then he ran right up to the fence for his apples. One morning the gate in the fence was open. Jack was on the outside of the open gate. Mr. Bones walked through the gate and up to him. You want to read?
There were no apples in Jack's hand this morning, but there were apples somewhere. Mr. Bones could smell them. Jack started to walk back to the barn,
Slow down.
and Mr. Bones followed. The good smell of apples came from Jack's pockets. If that was where the apples were, Mr. Bones was going to have some. Before long, Mr. Bones and Jack were right outside the barn door. There was Mr. Woods at his work.
Where were the apples?
In his pocket?
And then could the donkey smell them?
Yes.
Yes. What a surprise for Mr. Woods when he saw that donkey. Upon my word, he cried, this is the day for a ride. And it was the day. Mr. Bones had his apples. Then he started down the road with Jack on his back. I wish you could have been there to see that donkey. He looked as if he liked to have Jack on his back. He really did. I will ride down and show him to Father and Mother, called Jack. Then I will be right back. How he did wish that Mr. Carl and Alice and Jerry could see him now, all his other friends too. This was going to be fun, more fun than a pony, and it was more fun. Every day from this time on, Jack went for a ride on Mr. Bones. Before long he did not go down to the field to get that donkey. Mr. Bones came walking up to Hilltop Farm looking for Jack. The bell on the big white gate would go ting-a-ling, ting-a-ling. Then Jack could tell who was there. Mr. Bones is the wisest donkey in the world, he said to Mother. He can open the gate by himself. Father liked everything about Mr. Bones, but his jolly hee-haw. He must be a good donkey, laughed. Oh, thank you, Shauna. He may be a good donkey, laughed Father, but upon my word he cannot sing like a nightingale. Mr. Bones did not like to have Father make fun of him. Every time he saw Father, he called hee-haw, hee-haw. What is a nightingale?
A bird.
A bird, okay. Father could talk all he wanted to about Mr. Bones. Jack thought he was the best donkey in all the world. Maybe you will think so too. So why not go to Jack's house and make friends with Mr. Bones? Would you like to know how to get to Hilltop Farms? Just put some apples in your pocket, then take a walk some morning down a lovely country road. If you keep your eyes open, you will find the right road. Jack will be happy to see you, and I know you will like Mr. Bones.